OCA.
Ocala.
All right, 6 minutes after 11 o'clock. Thank you for tuning in. I'm sure you all know that we do a veterans show on Thursdays, and the initials PTSD comes up now and then. I'll never forget the time, though, that it came up because a wife was saying that her husband, who was a Korean War veteran, had been living with PTSD for decades and was never diagnosed. And then when she heard a TV report about it, said, that sounds like him. Took her a while to convince him to go get checked, and he finally agreed. And it was therapeutic in nature when they told the story, but it made all the world's difference. She was saying they both were happier. God bless her for putting up with whatever he had put her through. And he said that. That's not my words. That was his words, that she put up with whatever he was, dishing out to her all those years. It's something not to be taken lightly. Dr. Kelly Blasko is on the phone. She's the counseling psychologist for the National Center for Telehealth and Technology. She's talking to us about the resources and information for veterans, service members, and their families and children to deal with post-traumatic stress disorder. The example I gave was from the Korean War. The Korean War.
Gosh.
This stuff doesn't go away.
No.
Unless you get it treated. So if you know of a veteran coming back from a conflict that's happening today or maybe just a few years ago, you got to pay attention to this subject. And there's help out there. We've seen it ourselves on Thursdays when they come in from the Veterans Show. Dr. Kelly Blasko, thank you for being on, and thank you for the work you're doing. Good morning.
Oh, good morning, and thank you for having me.
And where are you calling from?
I'm calling from Joint Base Lewis McChord in Washington State.
Oh, wow. Okay, thank you for getting up early. You're all the way out there.
Yeah, it's early, but this is such an important topic. I really am glad to have the opportunity to talk about it.
Do we have any breakthroughs as far as dealing with PTSD in your career that have changed maybe the way you work with a client or a patient?
Yeah, actually, I think the biggest breakthrough in general is just the education about PTSD, and which is post-traumatic stress disorder. As you mentioned, it not only affects the person that may have these symptoms, but also family members, whether it's a spouse or child or a friend. And so it's good to know. People don't realize it's actually an response to a traumatic event. As you mentioned, veterans or service members their trauma might be related to combat, but people in general can have traumatic events like experience of a natural disaster and so on.
Right. I'm wondering if post-traumatic stress disorder is more stressful when the event that was witnessed or experienced was like human evil or human unkindness. In other words, an accident is hard on a person to watch, to be witness to an accident. But if you see somebody shoot somebody just being evil or just being bad, I'm wondering if that is has more of an effect.
Well, I will mention that certainly there are different types of traumas, but everybody experiences trauma differently. So, someone might be exposed to the same trauma in combat and have very different responses. So it's very difficult to compare people's reactions to different things. But what we do know is that there is a lot of treatment, regardless of the trauma. Symptoms of PTSD can be very common. For example, they may have nightmares or avoid situations that remind them of the trauma, or isolating themselves from their loved one, and even kind of being always on alert for danger or startled easily. Anybody who has PTSD symptoms, no matter what the trauma that they've been exposed to, will need to. It may affect their day-to-day life, and they may need to seek treatment.
Sometimes people think a person is going through PTSD when they're really going through something else. How do the medical professionals know that they really should be treating this person with PTSD and it's not something else?
Well, many healthcare professionals are very aware of the evidence-based treatments and diagnostic criteria for something like PTSD or some other mental health issue. So I think that, as well as as you mentioned, you don't want service or support family members to diagnose their loved one, but they can get a lot of information. So, for example, the DoD has developed after deployment for service members, veterans, and their families, and a person can go on there and do an anonymous assessment and maybe see a severity of a particular symptom, and it gives them recommendations to seek help. So this information then would be very helpful to the healthcare professional to actually make the correct diagnosis and to provide the correct help to that person.
So take us into the room with you, if you don't mind. Let's say you're with a veteran and you have positively identified that there's post-traumatic stress disorder involved. What do you do? Is it a matter of talking? Are there any physical activity? Is there medication? What exactly happens?
Well, there are a lot of effective treatments that the Department of Defense relies on, and it really is unique requirements for everyone and the type of treatment that I would select or people would select. But really a big part of the work that can be done is around education. And I mentioned after deployment, but I also want to mention that family members are really important to the healing process as well, and they have effects. So, for example, we have a resource, Military Kids Connect, that gives information to military kids about how to cope with a parent with PTSD. The other thing that is in working with service members in general would be to recommend some mobile apps that would be appropriate given the symptoms they're experiencing. For example, Breathe to Relax might be one, or Virtual Hope Box that can help with positive coping. And what I'm really have always been excited about as a provider is that there are apps that can be a companion to treatment. So if someone's experiencing nightmares, we have an app called Dream Easy that could actually help with nightmare reduction.
Really?
And I can work with my client on that.
Yeah. Oh my gosh.
So as a psychologist, what do nightmares tell you?
Well, I think depending on all the other symptoms, it helps me make some diagnostic decisions. And like you were mentioning, it helps in the diagnosis of PTSD. The other thing I might mention also for providers that may have a lot less experience with PTSD, we have a provider portal on After Deployment where they can learn clinical practice guidelines to help with that or other mental health issues. And also they can have handouts as part of their treatment to service members or veterans, whoever, that could be helpful for them, their healing process.
Yeah, because everybody has to heal, even not just the person who has PTSD, but all their family members as well, because they're all one unit.
Correct. And I think there's one of the myths that I personally think is that PTSD is often called the invisible injury, but really we do know that loved ones see these behaviors, and it's really not invisible to them. It's very visible. And so they have reactions to this as well. And so education about PTSD, whether it's a spouse, partner, friend, or children, they're all kind of in it together, and we want to support each other. So I think all the resources I mentioned actually can be extremely helpful to all of them.
Wow, this is so fascinating. I just went to your website. I'll give it to the listeners. The Dream Easy app, what the text says here, this is for the sake of our listeners. The app uses principles from imagery rehearsal therapy for nightmare reduction to help users change their nightmares into less disturbing dreams so they can get a better night's sleep. Wow, I didn't even know you could do something like that. Wow.
Yeah, well, and all our products we we use evidence-based practices to build on them, so that we know that the resources we're giving them are actually helpful.
Let me, if you don't mind, I'm going to read the website to the listeners, and then you can tell us any other information that might help them find the help they need. The website is www.T as in Thomas, 2 the numeral, health, so T2 health, D as in David, C as in cat, O as in Oscar, and E as in easy, I guess. DCOE, in other words, .mil as in million or military. Okay, so T. We'll put this on the podcast also. So T2health.dcoe.mil. It's kind of long, but you have to get it right, otherwise you're not going to get it. Yeah.
Well, you can Google T2 Health, and I think you will also find it as well.
Oh, okay, that's good to know. Well, thank you for what you're doing. I'm always fascinated by this. Can I squeeze in one question, or do you have to run?
I think we have to go at this point.
Well, there was a news story this morning about an injection that helps people with PTSD. Is anything to that, do you know, on the Wall Street Journal?
I haven't seen the article. However, I know the Department of Defense had looked into many different effective treatments, and so more to come. Okay.
I apologize for squeezing in that last little bit. Dr. Kelly Blasko, thank you so much.
Thank you.
All right, we will take a little break. We'll be right back.
A daily latte or a new book or something else that means a lot to our guest. To find out more about the Palm Garden Way, take a tour located on the corner of 27th Avenue and 34th Street in Ocala.
Hi, this is JP from Penn Flooring here in Ocala. I would like to invite you to come in and visit our spacious showroom where we have solutions for every style and budget. From wall-to-wall carpet to hardwood floors and tiles, we have an unsurpassed selection of flooring. At Penn Flooring, we've provided quality customer service with a family touch for over 25 years. Visit our website at pennflooring.com or come by our showroom, 1201 Southwest 17th Street, just over the bridge. Penn Flooring, quality customer service with a family touch.
The very best in quality is Captain T's Upholstery.
Hey, this is Dan. Let me ask you a few questions. Does your boat look better with the cover on? Has your car's interior seen its better days? Stop using a towel to cover up those rips in the golf cart. Isn't it about time you had it restored to better than new with a custom upholstery from Captain T? Captain T's Upholstery has been right here in Ocala for nearly 20 years, so they know how to make your ride one of a kind. Whether you want to take that classic ride back to a factory look or put your favorite sports team front and center, Captain T's Upholstery is who to call. 352-369-1810. That's 352-369-1810. Or stop by their location, 5030 South Pine Avenue in Ocala, just past the drive-in. And of course, don't forget to visit them on the web, CaptainTUpholstery.com.
The very best in quality is Captain T's Upholstery.
Hey, man.